Good morning, everyone. It's Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and we are here for another Monday morning of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about what's going on in U.S. immigration. Typically, we talk about what's happened in the immediate past week, because it is the U.S., so we know we've always got a lot going on in immigration, and I want to keep you all up to date. So I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration with Beyond the Soundbite, and we are going to jump in and get started. So the biggest thing I want to talk about is what happened this weekend. I know hardly anything ever happens in immigration on the weekend. Well, hardly anything good, I should say. But this weekend, we had some really great things coming through. It looks like the master's cap of the H-1B was indeed run. We are seeing notifications in the MyUSCIS accounts where master's cap cases have been selected. So those notices started coming out on Saturday. So that was extraordinarily good news and a great way to start a weekend. So if you have not checked your MyUSCIS account, go ahead and do that. If you need assistance now that you have been selected for the H-1B cap, my office is more than happy to sit with you and get you the help that you need for that. Just feel free to give us a call at 954-903-1337. I have not seen any bachelor's degree H-1Bs come through the MyUSCIS account yet, but keep checking. We expect those to be coming out soon, especially since it looks like the master's cap was run and came out so quickly. So that's very exciting news that came out this weekend. The other thing that we got last week was continued flexibility and extra time to respond to notifications from the Immigration Service. So those notifications include, but are not limited to, responding to requests for additional evidence, notices of intent to deny, notices of intent to revoke, and when we are trying to file motions to reopen and reconsider. We're in the middle of a pandemic, folks, so the Immigration Service understands that, and they understand that it is taking us longer to get information such as police reports, certified court records, birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, not only getting them from, places in the US. Some people need to go reach out to different states that they're not living in. Some people need to get these documents from overseas, and it's just taking a while. Some federal offices overseas, they're just not open, or they're operating very slowly. So the Immigration Service has extended the time frame. So if you have a notice from the Immigration Service dated March 1st of last year, 2020, through and including now June 30th of this year, we now have extra time to get those responses into the service because they recognize that it is just taking us a little bit longer than usual to get those supporting documents so that we can respond. So that's fantastic news. So I'm super excited about that. Let's talk about H-1Bs and L-1s for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. So H-1Bs and L-1s, they oftentimes bring over their family members who are provided H-4 and L-2 status respectively. And so in certain cases, those dependents can also apply for work authorization. Well, here's the deal, folks. Their work authorization applications are being slowed down because their extension of stay in H-4 and L-2 have also been slowed down. So there is now a lawsuit pending against Department of Homeland Security because of the delays in approving H-4s and L-2s. You can only be an H-4 and L-2 if you have a principal family member that is H-1 or L-1. So we're on the outside of the agency, we're just not quite sure why these applications are taking as long as they are. So this weekend, I pulled the current processing times as stated by the immigration agency, and I just want you to know what they are because they are taking a much longer time than normal, and we're just quite frankly not sure why. So if we are looking at change of status to H or L, the California Service Center for H-1Bs is currently taking 10 to 13 months. The and then for L's, California Service Center is taking 9.5 to 12 months. And remember, these are for dependent applications. So the principal has already been approved. We are now just simply saying, here's a dependent, here's a birth certificate, here's a marriage certificate, and here's an approval notice for the principal applicant. Out of the Vermont Service Center, we are seeing H's take 10 to 13 months, and we are seeing L's take 10 to 13 months as well. Now, if it's now taking, let's say 9.5 to 13 months on average, after that application is approved, then someone can go forward and apply for their work authorization document. So we're now roughly at a year before we can even file the work authorization document. And when we do file the work authorization document, here are the current processing times as of this weekend that I pulled. For California, they are processing EADs at 6. It's taking them 6 to 11.5 months. Nebraska is taking 2.5 to 5 months. The Potomac Service Center is taking 5.5 to 7.5 months. Texas is taking 2 to 4.5 months, and Vermont is taking 5 to 9 months. So given these incredibly long processing times, Department of Homeland Security is now facing a class action lawsuit in order to help get these processing times down and really stop preventing people from applying for work or having their their current positions extended because they can't provide work authorization documents. So I will keep you apprised of that particular lawsuit and we'll see where that goes. But hopefully the agency will figure out a way to get these dependent applications and then their corresponding employment authorization document applications processed and through the system a little bit quicker than we're currently seeing. Next up, we're in a pandemic. I think I say that every single week. It's no surprise, even if you've been living under a rock. Part of the reason you've been living under a rock is because we're currently in a pandemic. So I get it. In some respects, the agency gets it, but we're still seeing a few issues with lawful permanent residents or our green card holders who have, for some reason, been overseas for more than a year. And so because we're in a pandemic, that some reason is the pandemic. So we have dealt with travel restrictions coming back into the US. We've dealt with airline restrictions that have cascaded from the various travel restrictions all over the world. And some folks have had expired or lost green cards. Some people maybe left the country in, February of last year and thought they would just be gone for maybe a couple of months, home visiting family. Boom, we get hit with a pandemic. Oh, and by the way, their green card was, going to set to expire maybe in June of last year. So they now don't have a valid green card in which to even get on a plane. So of course the airline's not going to even let them on the plane. So there's a whole host of reasons. Not to forget, there are also health challenges because of COVID that people have been dealing with, whether it's their own health challenge or family health challenges. So there are a ton of reasons, 1,001 reasons why a lawful permanent resident would be outside of the US for more than a year. Well, the problem with being outside of the US for more than a year as a permanent resident is that there is a presumption that you have now given away and no longer want to be a permanent resident of the United States. So this really shouldn't be a presumption in the age of COVID, but some folks are reporting that they've been having a few issues trying to board planes, trying to get travel documents. And so for that, I say this. We're still going to need to show that you intend to return to the US, that you have not actually abandoned your permanent residency status. And we can do that by showing your ties to the US, whether you own property, whether you're still paying a mortgage, whether you have bank accounts, whether you are still filing your taxes here in the US, whether you still have employment here in the US, and now you just happen to be working remotely overseas, whether you have family ties in the US or your kids with you overseas and they're still attending their school in the US remotely. So there's a lot of things that we can show the agency and that we can try to have a conversation with a consulate about so that you can at least get a travel document if you are ready and able to come back into the United States. So if that is something that you've been having problems with or something that you are worried about as a current green card holder, you're concerned that you may have been outside for more than a year, feel free to give our office a call. I have been fielding these calls quite a bit. And you can again reach us at 954-903-1337. And the last thing I want to talk to you all about today is the NVC, the National Visa Center. They are the liaison, the go-between, and the clearinghouse between USCIS in the United States and the consulates overseas. Their job is to collect documents, pull them all together in a package, go back and forth with either myself as outside counsel or the beneficiary, and give us a list of documents that they need, pull that list of documents together and say, okay, you've given us all the documents we need. Now we're going to coordinate with the consulate in order to get you your visa appointment. That's what the NVC does. So their role is pivotal when someone is outside of the US and they are applying for permanent resident status. We love the NVC. Think of the NVC as the messenger. It's oftentimes the messenger that gets shot when it's really the messenger that's not actually sort of creating any of the policy. So NVC is truly, truly, truly a middleman. So let's talk about what's going on at the NVC right now. The consulates are off. Many of the consulates are closed. Many are also open, but they are processing limited applications. And so for those consulates that are open and processing applications, they're generally processing applications where it is the spouse of a United States citizen, cases where children are going to age out of being able to receive their green card benefit, country adoptions, and expedite requests. Those are the cases that are currently being prioritized at the consulates. So it is the NVC's role, and the NVC is still working. It is their role to still reach out to you, still get your documents, still have you send in your documents. But the NVC cannot coordinate with the consulate in order to issue you an appointment for your interview until the consulate has the capacity, until the consulate is open. In order to get you into the consulate and get you into your interview, hopefully get you approved, and then get you into the United States. So several things are at play here. So again, the NVC is our middleman, and so we're not going to shoot the middleman on something that is not fully their decision, and they're not the policymakers here. So the NVC has recently released that are indicated to us as of January 25th of this year, 2021, they have many, many cases that have been deemed to be documentarily qualified. And when that happens, they send out a notice to the individual and to me as outside counsel and say, hey, we have all the documents that we need for your case. We are now just, you're basically now in line to get your interview, right? So they've told us that as of January 25th, the number of family-based cases that have sent in all of their documents and they are ready to go and they're waiting for appointment times with various consulates around the world, That number is 312,782. So we are looking at over 300,000 cases that are family-based that are waiting for interviews. For employment-based cases, they are looking at 11,504 cases that all have submitted the proper documents. They are ready to go. NVC has said, great, we've checked all the boxes, we have all your documents, but they cannot get these cases out and set for interview. So again, the NVC is just our middleman, important middleman, and they have a tremendous role in this process. So if you are someone that has been documentarily qualified and you've sent in all your documents and you've gotten that amazing letter, that email back from the NVC, and you're super excited, that does not mean, unfortunately, that your interview is going to be scheduled tomorrow or even next month. There are so many things that the consulates have to take into consideration, and I've talked about this ad nauseum for several weeks. So unfortunately, you may have sent in all of your documents, but right now you may not be scheduled for an interview for a while. So we're just going to have to be a little bit patient. So I did mention that the consulates are accepting expedite requests. So I've been getting calls and emails about this as well, so I wanted to cover it. Yes, the consulates and NVC are accepting expedite requests. They absolutely 100% are. No, there is no set time by which the consulate or NVC needs to respond to you regarding the expedite request. So just because you make an expedite request does not mean that you are going to get a response from that in a week or 2 weeks or 2 hours or 4 hours. There is no set time by which they must respond to your expedite request. Certainly they have received it, certainly they are looking at it, but there is no set time. So if you think that you qualify for an expedite request or you think you want to make an expedite request, my office is more than happy to speak with you about that and see if your case, if we think we can get you an expedite request, we're more than happy to help with that. So I wanted to let y'all know what's been going on at the NVC. They are still working. They're still collecting documents. The NVC is physically located here in the United States. So that's one of the reasons, they're not looking at country conditions and, like all of the consulates are. So that is what I have for y'all this week. I think we've got some good news mixed with a little bit of maybe not so good news. But I am super excited that the H-1B lottery cases are starting to come, that the lottery notifications are starting to come through. So make sure that you check your My USCIS account. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, or you can shoot me a message. If you need help with any of your immigration related needs, feel free to give my office a call, 954-903-1337. I am Carol Williams. This is our Monday edition of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration. And have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I will see you all again on Monday. Bye.